Oi, oi. I have
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, Twitch chat. Welcome back to Let Us Play. I'm your host, Father Evan. It's good to be with y'all today. And Vera Volta, thank you for the raid. Sorry I couldn't be there right when y'all came. For those of you who are still sticking around, pleasure to meet you. I'm Father Evan, Catholic priest, streamer here on Twitch 4 days a week. Wednesdays, we are doing Minecraft. So it's so good to see y'all. And Kit, congratulations on winning your Crown of Furstendom on the day of Ash Wednesday. So it is an ashen crown, I suppose. It is fitting. Yeah, Neko and MapPack are sharing the brain cell, but I know you two know better. Before we dive in, I want to give thank you and shout out to some folks. Thank you Noah Colino and Jacob X Colino and UltraDogman05 for following the channel. Welcome on in. Hope you have a good time. Thank you for being here. And that means we hit 400. Unhappy Ash Wednesday? No, blessed. It happened. So we've hit 400. This means I'm going to do the bonus stream of Magic content with Gladiator. So that's on Arena. It's a format, and it's going to be open invite to anyone in the community who wants to face me. I think if I lose, I'll eat like a sour candy or do a candy spin thing. I know I'm giving that up for Lent, so you can't redeem it, but maybe for that date special. I'm looking at doing that on the 22nd, March 22nd, so 2 weeks from Saturday. So keep an eye out for that. I'll be posting stuff in social media about rules and whatnot if you want to get involved. So yeah. But yeah, good to see y'all. Let's go ahead. Let's dive into some Minecraft. Second Tuesday of next week. Got it. Shall be the death of me, MapPack. Saturday or Friday? Saturday. That way I can do it for a nice long time and most folks won't have work. If you're giving up candy for Lent, then do all of the candy spins build up to one overdose after Lent? I mean, if y'all want to save your points so that Easter Monday, well, probably Easter Tuesday. I probably won't stream Easter Monday because I'll be tired. Oh, you were owed a joke. My apologies, Kit. A lot happened in chat. Speaking of days and everything, you know, I like Sundays. They're good. They're beautiful. Everything. But, you know, sometimes they can be a little sad. But, you know, no matter how sad a Sunday is, the day before is always Saturday. Your kids may be kind, but German children will always be Kinder. Ja, das ist Wahrheit. Mehr Kinder. So for those of you joining us, we are working on the Opera House. There's the Basilica in the background. It always looks so good. Last week we completed the flooring of the orchestra seating section. So today we're going to work on filling out the grand foyer. Gonna have staircases in the corners as well to get up to the balconies. So that's what we're working on today. A whole lot of marble. Yeah, we'll need not insignificant amounts of marble, but fortunately this is diorite, which is much easier to get our hands on. Actually, what we're going to need is a lot of quartz. That's going to be the real pain in the butt. It's looking really good. Thank you. Thank you very much, Vera, and thank you again for the raid. What were you streaming today? Meep Mass Invisalign! He wants to play in the floorboards. No, I need purple. Well, I think there's 2 purples, and together I think they're weighted at about 20%. Just watching whatever chat suggested. Gave up swearing for Lent. Oh, that could be a tough one. But you have chat to help you, I guess, so that's good. Do they get some sort of reward, or you have some sort of punishment if you do slip up? Because I know some real sour candies you could have. I gave up giving things up for Lent. I had a priest brother. He's gone to his eternal reward, but he would always joke that he gave up celery for Lent. This man would not have celery any other time of the year either. But he dutifully gave it up every year. Okay, we're gonna need more diorite. We need to return to the mines. We'll go the old-fashioned way. You're giving up being the Pope. Well, that's good. That, you know, anti-popes should repent. Gave up hard drugs. He never started. Well, that's good. Here's our lovely plaza at the front of the basilica. And my little home. Heard Pope Michael, you're not prepared for Pope Map Pack. I don't think anyone is. That's why I don't think he's going to get elected. Had to explain Ash Wednesday to a friend yesterday. Took a surprising amount of doing. He had rather gotten into his head that the primary goal of Lenten observance was self-improvement. I mean, I could see where someone might be coming from on that, just vis-a-vis how we look at those sort of things in our secular lens. And in a sense, there is an element of self-improvement. It's just not the... Ah, that's a creeper! It's just not the one we always expect. We undertake these spiritual disciplines to prepare ourselves. Yes, I know there's a bunch of diorite here, but this is the little hovel. We can't ruin the little hovel. Plus, we've got plenty other. Let's see what we've got down this way. Look at that. This game is easy. This little hovel is my favorite build so far. I'm glad you like it. It's not a bad little base. I need to completely reorganize the storage. This religious background also didn't have a parallel for extended period of fasting. That would also make it hard. There's always the old joke, you know, everything's been so tough, so this Lent I'm just giving up. You're in college, and as you were giving up Red Bull for Lent, a friend pointed out that I rarely drink Red Bull, but I drink vast amounts of Monster. And on friend's first day of being Catholic, I drank 6 cans of Red Bull. Weird flex, but okay. Well, and of course, Brayherd, your great fast has already begun. You're already 3 days into Lent. You're like, the rest of these people need to catch up. Hey, Extra Clean. Happy Ash Wednesday. I've been accused of having a caffeine addiction. Well, you know, it could happen. How is anyone already 3 days into Lent? Because Great Fast starts on, is it Bright Monday, Clean Monday? Which is it? What's the term? In the Byzantine tradition, it starts on Monday. Clean Monday. After you've had Cheese Fair and Meat Fair Sundays. I had to enjoy Fat Tuesday. Oh, don't apologize to me. I enjoyed Fat Tuesday as well. I made pancakes. They had chocolate chips in them. That's right. Bright. That makes sense. Bright Monday would be in Bright Week. Bright Week being the what we in the West would call the octave of Easter, the first week after Easter. Had a bunch of students at the Newman Center go to Culver's. Oh, that's a good way to celebrate. Doing a 3-day water fast from today through Friday. Oh, that's an intense one. Yeah, just pay attention to your bodily needs. You know, like, it is possible and reasonable to do that, but if it gets to a point where it's like more detrimental, it's okay to say, okay, my fasting might need to be a little less intense. You know, fasting is ultimately something that is going to be unique to each person. Aristotle speaks of this in a certain way, and Aquinas definitely adapts this, talking about the virtue of temperance, of moderation. That what is moderate for one person is not moderate for another. Aristotle uses the example of an athlete versus an elderly citizen of the city. What is appropriate for the athlete to eat versus what is appropriate for health-wise for the elderly person to eat are not the same. That doesn't mean that both of them can't be virtuous. So. And Aquinas definitely adapts that in talking about fasting. Oh, there's a Neumann parish. Yeah, that gets really confusing. Like, I worked at a Newman Center, and there was a John Neumann parish in town, and everyone pronounced it Newman, and it's like, that's not how you say that. It's a German name. You pronounce it Neumann. I've been fired up for Lent for weeks now. Hey, let's go. I mean, you could also be fired up for Lent. I won't stop you. You know, you might just be like, yeah, Lent. Lent is awesome. Oh, well, I mean, you've been technically pronouncing it wrong, but it's also one of those where, like, culturally, it's not actually that wrong. Also, I just took out some of my stairs. I need to fix that. Good enough. Fun fact, McDonald's Filet-O-Fish was given to American Catholics as a meatless option on Fridays. But all fast food fish sandwiches came from this, but it was not the only initially tested option. The other was Hula Burger, fried pineapple on a cheese bun. I guess it depends on what kind of cheese, but I don't hate this idea. I like pineapple, and fried pineapple's really good. I mean, I would hazard to guess the Redemptorists would also pronounce Neumann correct, given that he was a Redemptorist, but, you know. Yeah, I guess it would depend on the kind of cheese. If it's just like standard McDonald's cheese, probably not, but maybe something more smoky like a Gouda. And some good meatless options on Friday if you don't like fish. Chickpeas. Super high in protein. Ethiopian food, yeah. Eggs. Pasta. You can do a lot of pasta without any meat. Paneer. Paneer's pretty good. Eat that doll. Yeah? Yeah. Alligator, beaver, and whale all do, in fact, count as fish in the eyes of the Vatican. Lentil? I had lentil soup today. Living off cheese pizzas last year. Probably want to spice it up a little bit with a little more variety. Maybe veggie pizza? I would but yeah, my go-to would still be chickpeas, because then you can have like falafel and look at this. I have all this polished diorite slabs in here already. Shows that I was paying attention to what I have, I guess. Mushroom pizza? Well, not for me. I have an emote for that, and you know it. Salads, yep. Curry. Yeah, and you can do curries with chickpeas. So good. Trying to think what else would be a good non-meat option other than fish. I mean, I cheat a little sometimes in Lent on Fridays and get sushi, which doesn't really feel like it's following the letter of the law, but it doesn't really feel like it's following the spirit. It's a Coptic restaurant near your parish. Ooh. Where that needs to go. I guess it actually needs to go back one further. And even if it doesn't, we can cover it up, so. We're far enough away that the basilica doesn't properly render in. I love that. Every time I see it, just the buttresses just hanging out, buttressing nothing. Looks like ribs. I mean, kind of is. Building ribs. Bet you can't barbecue those. Oh, wow. Oh, too soon, Kit. Too soon. You need to fix your filter. Yeah, go take your oil filter for a change. Yeah, there's been an argument made that abstention from meat's really not as meaningful or impactful in today's day and age, and that we should do something else. I think there's arguments for and against it. I don't really have a strong feeling, but I do wonder what, if you were just like up to individuals, what would I give up in terms of like a food stuff? Honestly, probably starches. Apparently, the reason that beaver, muskrat, and capybara are considered fish goes back to the Summa Theologica, which classifies animals by habitat as much as by anatomy. The practical reality, well, particularly the practical reality of a lot of trappers and explorers, etc., were limited to that. I didn't know that about the Summa Theologica part, though, about the habitat portion of it. That's interesting. Yeah, so part of the fast, the abstention fast, has historically been meat, dairy, oil, and eggs. Byzantine monastics actually still observe that during the Great Lent. To which I ask what's left, and it's like flour, salt. Give yourself some flatbread. Well, there's different ways of yeah, some might do it all 40, some might do it just on Wednesdays and Fridays. I don't know why. Like, you read in the Didache about the importance of fasting on Wednesdays, and I've never really understood why. Wednesdays. It's just like, yeah, Wednesday. We fast on Wednesdays. It's like, okay, well. I feel like mapping out the first box and balcony area. Seven along Wikipedia is a long-standing dispensation allows Catholics to consume muskrat as their Friday penance. I know what it means, but it sounds like eating muskrat to be considered a penance. I mean, it might be. Have you seen a muskrat? I'd be willing to count that as a penance in and of itself. Can you give yourself penances? In the sense, I mean, anyone can give themselves a lowercase p penance in the sense of like, I'm doing this as a spiritual practice to make atonement for wrongdoings. You can't give yourself a penance in the sense of as part of the sacrament of penance. Oldest mentioned fasting season for Lent is St. Moses the Black. Getting in trouble for breaking that fast, but then explaining he had visitors and it was more important to show hospitality to his guests. That is both valid and also sounds exactly like Moses the Black's story. Yeah, that's enough height. That doesn't feel too crowded or too tall to be the level above. Sacred hospitality does run deep. I mean, we see it in Abraham's story. Okay, that's probably about where I want the box to finish. So, what if we did it? Just thinking about proportions here. So I'm thinking, and again, the box will have a hallway by which people can enter straight into their box, so they do not have to see the riffraff. But I'm thinking of like what kind of balcony or railing I want to put on, and I'm thinking probably a wall, because those are a height that the character cannot jump over, but can also comfortably see over. So we need a space for the wall to go. So what if we did it something like that? Because then we could have the wall essentially here. I'll put these down as barriers. And we could have a seat and a seat. Then a couple rows back, we can build an identical space. So how wide was this? It was ultimately like 5 wide. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nope, wrong thing. Stupid mouse wheel. So we can have a couple boxes on each side. Ow, my ankles. I might actually remove this too. There doesn't need to be a connection to each box, I guess, if they're going to come in via the hallway directly in. Is there for a live stream yesterday? Did anyone Rotida? Yeah, someone did Rotida yesterday, I think. Pretty sure. It's a very rare day that someone does not Rotida. Not unheard of, but... This is going to be our balcony section. So I think I actually need to add a row in front for where their railing is going to go. I oppose the idea of a stream going unrotted. It'll keep you on your toes. And I appreciate that. But occasionally, ever so often. That command, oh, I didn't need to fall down there. That command goes unused. And we will also step up the balcony seating area up here, so we have 2 platforms. So I'm not... I guess I could actually do this, because I don't need to connect all the way back, because I probably won't have a ton of chairs here, just because that would be blocked by this box, so... Wouldn't that be unrotted? There's the question. Gonna put the steps down real quick before I forget and try to find that later. Speaking of rotted, it's a very weird R roll. Yeah, happy Ash Wednesday again. When you fast, do not put on a gloomy face. Clean your face so it appears fresh that you are not fasting. Anyway. It is actually kind of a funny coincidence that that's the gospel we use and also the tradition we have. Which is actually really a fairly American thing. Most other countries actually sprinkle the ashes on top of people's heads, so you can't even see it. But yeah, I think it is still a beautiful passage about the importance of not secrecy, but not showboating your faith. You know, having sort of that appropriate humility. because there absolutely is space to be vocal about faith. I mean, this space wouldn't exist if there weren't. But also, it's okay to have that just quiet relationship, and good. So yeah, so as we start Lent, we have our 3 pillars of prayer, fasting, and almsgiving that we look to, and I don't know why I did it that way. Yeah, we have our 3 pillars. What was I going to say? And yeah, they just kind of guide us in all that we do. So this has actually been a very interesting Ash Wednesday for me in that I had no mass to preside at or really attend, in a sense. I was present in the church, hanging out in the back during a mass, giving out ashes for those who couldn't stick around. It's also interesting, too, just how many people show up for Ash Wednesday. It's actually the busiest day of the church year. Busier than Easter, busier than Christmas. Not a holy day of obligation. But there is something kind of almost transcendent about getting the ashes that's very iconic about this is something that makes me Catholic. So it's quite a beautiful day, actually, just to listen to people's stories and encounter people. Like his way to subtly witness. Yep, it can absolutely do that too. But do not let it be a stumbling block. I remember when you're in college, it was Ash Wednesday, and we had a prayer service and distribution of ashes at our Newman Center, and then, just going about our day. And on my way back to class, what was known as Institute, which is the LDS, the Mormon sort of place of higher education at a university, was giving out hot chocolate that day. It was cold, so I got some. But I ran into a few other the Newman students, and there we were, the 3 of us, getting our ashes, or having our ashes on our forehead, and everyone being like, what's with those 3? I think Ash Wednesday was your first mass your dude went to. He's now Catholic and he got married. Oh, that's awesome. That's beautiful. Congrats. I like how you refer to your husband as my dude. I genuinely like that. I think that's kind of special, and it's great. Okay, we should be lined up. Barrier will go there. Yeah, look at that. We are lined up. So that lines up all with that row. So how many spaces did we make here? I love the zoom feature here. It's so helpful. A good thing about always calling him my dude is helps me not dox him. That's valid. Let's see how this looks from the stage. All right. It's looking pretty good. And then we'll do one more layer above, and that'll be the family circle. Do I have any kind of blueprint, or is it all in my head? Yeah, it's basically all in my head. I think I have... Sometimes I make... Sometimes I make, like, doodles. Yeah, I didn't make a doodle for this one. This one is just, it's here. I need to finish the balcony. Nope, wrong thing. Last year, your old job, I went to Ash Wednesday, both work and one coworker asked me about ashes because she generally didn't know what they were. I opened a very beautiful conversation about the purpose and reason for Lent. Hey, that's great. A lot of my conversations growing up in Utah about it was, hey, did you know you have something on your forehead? Come on, it's nighttime. Okay, I can see stars. So yeah, but yeah, when it comes to plans, yeah, I just kind of have something in my head, maybe sometimes like a written note, sometimes a doodle. Because what we also have underneath is the entire cistern, which is a very hidden feature, but I like it because it harkens to the Paris Opera House, and there is a way into it. Like, if you come down from backstage, there is a ladder that leads you into this space, and you can crawl under, like in Minecraft. You go, a child was forced to clean off his ashes. Yeah, that was a really sad story. Now you can crawl under here. This is going to be a stairwell leading up to the hallways that lead up to the boxes. Yeah, you can get into the cistern. Yeah, I got enough to do the family circle. So I don't know if every opera house calls it that, but that's definitely what they call it at the Met. There's like this one section at the very top, and it's just the family circle. It's the cheap seats. This one can be less tall, so probably about there-ish seems good. These two sections don't have to go as far back. I wonder what we're going to do with that space. We're probably going to tuck some... We could theoretically tuck something into the space between, because we'll have a wall here at least, or at least like wall here, probably ceiling all the way back over this section. That's not too far back. Where's the roof going to be? Probably above. Okay, where's the roof going to be? I genuinely do not know what you're asking, actually. Like, I don't know what you mean by, like, if you mean, like, height, like above this, or... What? Oh, what? Sorry, I read where. That would explain it. Oh, man, what a dyslexic moment. What? The roof is probably going to be, I mean, the whole palette is fairly neutral and white. So it's probably going to be some form of combination of our white palette being concrete and quartz and maybe even a little bit of this diorite. But then there will be a dome in the center of this space, not of the whole building. It's not going to be centered on the whole building, but more centered in this space, so somewhere about here. And we're going to do that using copper, but unlike all the other copper where we're protecting it, we'll want that to intentionally go verdigris. Pale wood? Yeah, we could definitely do some pale wood because we do have some birch. And we might even do like pale wood interior in a different material on the outside. So I can bring it down. We've certainly got plenty of birch. If we wanted to do the pale wood, which we could. We could also do a dark wood. Like a dark oak to match what the stage is. But from the center of the dome, we'll have a chandelier hanging. You know, nothing's ever gone wrong with a chandelier in an opera house. Okay. How far in did I place this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's easy. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's on that one. And I actually need to complete this one. Yeah, opera houses with underground lakes and chandeliers, everything's fine. What's that? There's this dude named Eric wearing a mask? Sure that means nothing. Play your Ash with a leaf blower? No, I was just Fellow Paulus with a big thumb. Good to see you, Kevin. Hope you're doing well. I might need to extend that one. I just realized. Oh well, that's fine. It's an easy fix. Hey, squirrel. Random question. All right. How long are you supposed to leave the ashes on your forehead before removing them, or is there a strict requirement? What's the recommendation? Yeah, there's not a strict recommendation or rule. Like, if they're literally like giving you an allergic reaction, please take them off. But generally, I have followed the rule of like taking it off, washing it off before going to bed, just so it, doesn't get all over my pillowcase. But again, there's no like hard and fast rule, and it's not something where it's like you're going to be quote unquote doing it wrong if you remove it earlier. All right. That is looking good. We are now, of course, out of polished diorite, but that's okay. And we've got ashes on my head at most like twice in your life. Yeah, that's all good. There is no requirement to get them. It was just very easy for me to get them. Honestly, college was the hardest time in my life to get them just because we were very limited on when masses or services could be held. Because sometimes we just have to have like a prayer service because we just could not have the priest come and say a mass at the Newman Center because he was too busy at the parish that whole day. Understandably so. But I have gotten ashes every Wednesday of my life, as far as I'm aware. But I went to Catholic school growing up, and then I was in seminary, and now I'm a priest. So, I recognize that it's been a little easier for me in some ways than necessarily everyone else. Yes, make more sheep. Make my sheep army grow. But yeah, I think the general recommendation would just be throughout the day, as long as you can wear them. And like if it's itchy and you scratch them off, like, okay, that's fine. Had a blizzard come by your way and work was not ideal. Oh, yeah, no, please, if there's a blizzard, do not endanger your life for something like that. And that may sound weird, but like, I think it makes sense where it's like, Jesus would rather you be able to come to Mass another time than, not at all. Okay. Work on next. I guess let's chop down some spruce because we're gonna need lots of spruce to make our seats. One thing we've started doing, we do this now, but we started many years ago, was just like having some people in the back with masks. Like, you know, I think there is a benefit in participating in the communal prayer, but we also recognize that sometimes people's lives and works just don't allow it, and just being like, okay, great, let's meet you where you're at. You're doing this on your lunch break, or even just like your 10-minute smoke break. You know, like the previous Blizzard, I made it to Mass, but it was an obligation day, and it was either it was the easy Blizzard day or the harder one. Well, fair enough. But yeah, definitely the optional stuff. Like it's good and it's helpful for our spiritual lives, but like, you know, again, I think Jesus fully understands our lived circumstances. When you took your oldest for ashes when he was 9 months, he wrote his face on mine when he got sleepy. You're covered the entire side of your face. Aw, that sounds adorable. Yeah, I'm amazed sometimes when I see people show up on Ash Wednesday and they're wearing like all white. I'm like, that is a bold choice. Because I guarantee you, ashes kind of get everywhere when you're distributing them. Of course, I was distributing in a white alb, so who am I to say? Opened a lot of conversations with your coworkers. I can imagine. Even more so than Ashes already would have. Dang it. I was hoping the stonecutter would work there. Why doesn't the stonecutter cut wood? I don't understand. Ashes will not fly at your workplace. No, but you have, like, clean room requirements because of the medications you were handling. So... Okay, how do I want to place these? I guess... I know, like, there's gonna be the wall here, but walls start in the middle, so they'll still look like there's leg room. And then this could also give us space to have a second set of chairs, so you can have 4 people seated in a box. Ow! I bonked my head and I fell. Oh. Oh no, I need to put this higher. This won't work. I need to move this whole section up by 1 because right now I can't. I can squat walk there, but that's not gonna fly. Huh. Well, that's okay. Mistakes have been made before. Like this, I just placed those in the wrong spot entirely. So what I'll probably do is I'll remove this one and then just extend this one out and then elevate. Probably end the seating there. I think if I try to seat some... Well, I could seat someone there. It's not a great seat, but... Yeah, they can't all be award winners. Yeah, like this seat can still barely see the stage, but, you know, they're the cheap seats. They're the cheap seats for a reason. Been playing anything good off stream lately? I have been playing more of Ys 10. Kind of work my way through the story there. It feels a lot like Ys 8 in terms of gameplay, and I really appreciate that. Because I didn't like the direction they took for 9 as much, so. I hear spiders. Not sure when the story of Ys 10 is going to take a sharp left turn, but I know it will because it's a Ys game. And when I played it... Ah! No, go away. You are not a paying patron. So rude. Ys is the only long-form RPG you have not grabbed a game from. It's a bit of a niche one, interestingly enough. It really is kind of... It feels very cult classic. Like, I think in the milieu of JRPGs, it's historically very important, but I don't think a lot of people have heard of it. There was a sale. You picked up Trails, not to be confused with Trails. Trails, not to be confused with Tales. Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, and forget what else. Nice. I think on this level up, I could actually even go a little further out, just because it will... It's sufficiently above these boxes. Let's place that, and then place that, and then we can dismantle this upper section. And place it correctly. Well, there had to be some sort of build error somewhere, right? At least we caught this one fairly early. I'd have hated to have finished, like, putting out all the chairs and whatnot. When you're at the gym lifting weights before jiu-jitsu, managed to max out the weight on some of the machines. That's awesome. Congrats. Notes to self. Do not get in a fight with Brayherd Lord. Brayherd knows jujitsu. And can lift far more than I weigh. Ah, gravity. Ah, gravity. I'm beginning to see a downside to not having any walls existent in my build at this point. Fortunately, I have good boots. Oh, that was a little too much. So that goes there. Okay, let's not jump, apparently. You're a terrible fighter. You know this because you've gone to multiple competitions and lost every single match. That's fair. I mean, you may not be award-winning, but you probably are better than I would be. I see a block. I must get block. Yeah, now we can take the stairs and be fine. So I think next week we might try and do more of the lobby, the foyer, like actually redo the stairs to more or less what we want it to be like in terms of depth and width. All right, that's the frame up there done. Let's fill in this section. And by that, I mean go to bed because it's dark. This is gonna need to... Yeah, this needs to extend back. So we can actually knock out all of this. I almost went down the stairs that don't exist yet. Guess what you can't do? Oh, there's a zombie somewhere. And it's on fire. Oh, there it is. And that's all the diorite for now, but that's a non-insignificant amount. So, nice. So that's what the various tiers kind of will look like. I feel good about that. That's good progress. You got the boxes. And those will, you know, will fancy up and make all pretty. And again, they'll have their own kind of hallway from, so this stairwell will lead up, as well as, and it's probably gonna like be an open staircase with a kind of a balcony looking out over the open area, because we will also have, there's a hallway here essentially that ends up here, so it needs to raise itself from there to there slowly. Doesn't need to go there fast. And so we can build above that. So once we get the once the balcony reaches to about this point, it can enter into the hallway space. Start with our dead center chair. Probably go one wider up here. Yeah, you'll have a viewing angle. Well, they ain't called the cheap seats for nothing. feels quite high. Not improbably high, feels appropriately high for the family circle, but dang. Like, hope our Minecraft guy, Steve, doesn't have vertigo. Billy won't be running off the edge of that. Well, that's good. I hate for something bad to happen to Billy. I don't know who Billy is, but... What's that, Lassie? Timmy fell down the well? No? He fell down the cistern at the Opera House. Oh, that Billy. Family Circus Billy. Well, again, hopefully he doesn't just run off the edge. That would be bad. There we go. I was like, I thought I planted more spruce. First! In your heart, Bad Roxy. In your heart. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well. No, wait. Don't you warp around. Get back here, young man. Yeah, I'm looking at you. Deal with it. Nerd. No Gale's first in your heart. Aww. My phone has just kept going off all stream. I just want to make sure it wasn't anything important. Fortunately, it was things that can wait. Okay, where's some wool? Some red dye. I see more wool or red dye. Ah, red tulips. Poppies. Great. More red tulips. Love to see it. So I think we're about to make some carpet. If I can find where I put the shears. There they are. Let's get at least some spruce replanted first. Snip, 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 snip. Is everyone shooting? No! Quit regrowing your fur so quickly. It's helpful. You can't have helpful. Nope. No. Get back in there. Stay in your pen. Okay, see, there was a sheep over here that had just like wandered off. There's a gray sheep. Now, I don't know if we're going to do the entire floor in red. Actually, definitely in the, here in the lobby, it will not all be red. That's going to kind of be a... large section, kind of like this. I'm not going to do it all the way because this is going to come out. So... and then have a section like over to the stairs as well. Might make this wider still, but this will at least give us a sense of color and whatnot. Not full proportions yet, but I like that. I like that. Okay, so how far over do I want to make these seats? Probably just the same as this one. I think I can go one more back here. Yeah, the further back you go, the wider you can go. That makes sense. It's a shame we can't put carpet on half slabs, but definitely going to have carpet on the steps, like on the aisles. Yeah, that's filling in nicely. I guess this last one, it just can be a full bench. Well, no, actually, I still need space. Because if I do it... Like, if I cover this area, like, how are people supposed to get around and get down? Even if there's no staircase. Okay. There needs to be some way of getting through. There we go. That sets that standard. Keep getting stuck on the steps, trying to go sideways. Yeah, okay. I am liking how all this seating is coming together and how it looks. I need even more spruce still, but, you know, we're getting there. Looks really good. Thank you, Mel. Thank you very much. Hope you're doing well. You love the red carpet? My brain just shorted out and I don't know where it went. But thank you very much. Yeah, I got divine protection. All right. Had a creeper almost blow up on us. So borrowing youngest sister's car and registration sticker still says 4/20. Well, yeah, April 20th. You know, you still got like a month and a half before you have to re-register that. That's how that works, right? Okay. Let's go pick some red flowers. Past the sheriff on the way to mass. Ooh. Mel is playing with fire. It looks kind of funny from this angle. Followed you for a bit, but let you go. Oh, well, that's good. Looks like an alligator skull. I can see it. Also, I didn't have to go far to find red flowers, apparently. Hello, bees. Would you like a flower? Here, no, I'll give you a yellow flower because I want the red ones. See, you're friend now. We're friends now. We're getting soft tacos later. Turns out being by a flower forest is a really good place to get flowers. This is very convenient. There are even roses here. Although, ooh, actually the roses I might save because those could look really good in front of the building. So many tulips. Am I in Minecraft Holland? Or am I in Minecraft, Michigan? Because a lot of Dutch folks settled in Michigan, and so they have very large Dutch culture. Were tulips a currency at some point? I do not know. I feel like that... Maybe, like, the bulbs would make more sense, because I'm thinking, like, you know, an actual tulip, like, as a currency that's like, yes, I will buy this coat for 3 tulips. And the coat easily outlasts the flower. But the bulbs you can replant. I guess you could make them a currency in Minecraft. That could be an interesting way of handling trade. Because, like, interplayer currency is always an interesting question. So I need to reorganize just how I'm doing things here. Kind of have stuff all over the place. Yeah, I think these roses will look nice. I'll space them out. Do little gardens, but this will be wall, so that'll be... But yeah, I feel good about the progress we have made today. He says as he falls down a hole. Let's go find more clay just for this last little bit, because we're gonna need some clay for the brick wall of the back. The bulbs were. There we go. Kit has the answers. Well, it's because of Dutch exports that we think of carrots as orange. Like, exclusively. That's a lot of minerals. It's a lot of minerals. It's a shame it's all flooded. There's all my coal. There it is. I know I have more. Gonna need sand as well. We got plenty of sand, so we'll need to turn that into glass. So we'll want window panes. Gonna just do like clear, plain window panes. I don't see a reason to give them too much color. You know, unlike the stained glass of the Basilica. Want to just look through this inventory again, make sure there's nothing important to take. Diorite wall. So that's not... We want a polished diorite wall, but... I'm not really using stairs. But this will give us a sense of scale for some of what I was talking about. This build uses a diorite wall. I don't even remember. So it's not quite the right material because it's not polished, so it doesn't match the floor. Although that might not be a bad thing. Or I might even look into a different stone material altogether, like... Maybe like a... Oh, I forgot the name of the stone. The deep slate. Maybe deep slate would look good because that's black. Does that add too much? I might actually keep it plain diorite, because then it's a little bit different from the floor, but still sort of continuous in the idea. I don't know, what do you think, chat? Do you think I should be looking to some other kind of stone, or... Let's see how this looks down here. Yeah, it looks reasonably like a box. Although I put those in the wrong spot. I just realized they need to go back one each. Oops. Oh well. That's an easy fix. But yeah, I like the height, but I don't know if I like the brick. I think it needs to be something other than what's already there. So what could I bring in that's not... You know what we could use, actually? Do I have trellis? We have fence, but I think the fence would look a little too tacky. That's what's over here. I mean, we could change the color, obviously, but, like, I think it's a little too simple. What I was thinking, though, because we're going to be incorporating this block into some of the work around the dome, and the decoration is granite wall. Is that you saying no to using the wooden fence? Because that is the closest thing to trellis, I'm afraid. But this, I think, will match, because we'll also have, again, remember that the walls will not be pure white. We will have some level of copper decoration. Yes, no to wooden fence. And there is a polished granite variation as well. Down the cistern did not use it. It just used regular granite. But we could polish some of this up. And then what we could even do is use some of this kind of as like... We could connect it so that it kind of comes down and it will connect to the wall over here on this side. So it'll kind of look like a support beam. Why is that not connecting up? Oh, because that's an upper half of the slab. So we'd have to do like a lower half of the slab. But I still think that's fine, because then it's just... Let's connect that in like that, and then we could potentially even bring that forward kind of like that. So there's a bit of an arching. And we'll have one on the other side as well. I like that. I think that works well. I think it doesn't clash. Especially once we bring in more of the copper. And we do have the red carpet and kind of the warm seats. So I think that actually works quite well. And it feels very appropriate to an opera house. You know, this is kind of an equivalent of marble for Minecraft. So, you think it looks nice? That's good. Thank you. Don't mind me just breaking my ankles. So if we take some of this, so let's make some polished granite. Oh, no, you can just make a granite wall. It doesn't matter if it's polished or not. That's interesting. That's still okay. I'm still okay with that in the end. I thought you could make a polished variation. But yeah, that'll be nice, because then we can have... And this one will do likewise. Because then we can kind of have those supports. We might even bring it all the way out in front, kind of underneath to kind of look like a hoop or something holding it up. Again, something I personally find intriguing and important in a Minecraft build is kind of perceived weight. You know, because all the blocks will float, with a few exceptions, if you remove their support. And you can do a lot of fun stuff with things that are floating, for sure. But I appreciate kind of a grounded approach in my art style, and having something where it's like, okay, we could just have the balcony coming straight out. But if we have supports underneath it all the way, it looks like it's more load-bearing. It looks like it's, you know, really holding on to something. So that's something in my style I go for. How about those copper plates in front? What about them? Like incorporating them into the balcony? Yes, yeah, we could definitely look into doing that. I don't want to go placing copper right now because we don't have a ton of wax, and I don't want it to go verdigris, but I think that's actually going to be the perfect place to call it in terms of our projects and where we are with everything. So this is kind of the perfect place to put it to rest for the week, and we'll be back to it next Wednesday. So thank you so much for tuning in to Let Us Play. I've been your host, Father Evan. It's been good to be with y'all today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day and a blessed Ash Wednesday to you all. Join us again tomorrow for Throwback Thursday, where we will be playing more Urquan Masters. That game is very silly, and I love it. On Monday, we'll be doing our Kingdom Hearts 2 for RPG Monday. That will be likely more side quest stuff, really, before we finish the game. Because we have to do Atlantica, which is a rhythm-based game, and we have the... wow, my Ash really is just like a squid. And we have to do the tournaments in Olympus. And then next Tuesday, we will be playing Sainthood. So looking forward to that. Looks like an interesting game made by a Congolese developer now living in Canada. He is Catholic, so gonna be really interested to see how that game plays and what story it tells. And like I said, for reaching 400, again, thank you to all of you for following the channel, being here, being part of this community. We will be doing the bonus stream on the 22nd of March, so that's a Saturday. Don't know exact time yet. I'll figure that out sometime this week. Yeah. So that's everything. I'm glad you were glad, Mel. It is a blessing to be here with all of you and blessing to have you. But yeah, so I think that is everything. So yeah, again, I'll be putting out some more details on the reaching 400 goal celebration. Yeah, I think that's everything. So thank you to everyone who's liked, followed, subscribed, given bits, all that good jazz. Thank you, Vera Volta, again for the raid, and let's see who's live that we can raid into. I'm glad it was nice and fun. Hopefully it was also fun. Gonna send you on over to Clavier Talus. He's a Catholic VTuber. He's a fun dude. Looks like he's playing some Halo, so that's some pretty retro stuff. Raid call's just gonna be Ash Raid. You know, Ash Wednesday, Ash Raid. It seems appropriate. So yeah, so go give Clavier some love, and I will hopefully see y'all tomorrow. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care, and God bless.